At 2:50 in the afternoon of May 31st, 1889, the crest of the South Fork Dam split open. 14 miles above Johnstown, the dam held a lake. Its surface 450 feet up, 40 stories of water. From upstream, a deep, low roar was already building through the narrow walls of the ravine. The valley towns below were having a wet Friday afternoon. The roar had not reached them yet. 2,209 people died in Johnstown, Pennsylvania on May 31st, 1889, the deadliest dam failure in American history. More than every student in a large school, dead in a single day. 50 Pittsburgh industrialists, Carnegie among them, had built a private fishing lake on a repaired dam, 14 miles upstream of Johnstown. Daniel Johnson Morrell, Cambria Iron's superintendent in Johnstown, had already ordered an independent engineering inspection of the club's rebuilt dam. His written findings went directly to the men who owned the lake, 9 years before the flood. Not one of them was ever made to pay a single dollar in damages. The South Fork Dam stood 14 miles upstream of Johnstown. Johnstown sat below, a steel city in a narrow valley where the Stony Creek and Little Cone Moor met. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania built it between 1838 and 1853 as a feeder reservoir for its canal system. 5 cast-iron discharge pipes ran through its base. Those pipes were the only way to deliberately lower the reservoir in an emergency. When the railroads killed the canal trade, Pennsylvania sold the dam. The new owners let the structure fall apart. Congressman John Riley stripped all 5 discharge pipes and sold them for scrap. Benjamin Franklin Ruff, a Pittsburgh real estate promoter with no engineering credentials, bought the property in 1879. Club records show Henry Clay Frick convened 16 founding members of the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club. Membership grew to more than 50. Carnegie, Mellon, Knox among them. Ruff oversaw the reconstruction without retaining a qualified civil engineer. To widen the crest into a carriage road, the club lowered it by roughly 3 feet. The 5 discharge pipes were never replaced. Wire mesh fish screens went up across the overflow channel to keep the club's fish from escaping. The fill inside the dam's core was poorly packed, a hidden weakness that water would exploit. Daniel Johnson Morrell, superintendent of Cambria Iron, had already paid for an engineering inspection of the rebuilt dam. The engineer was John Fulton, a Cambria ironman, and his written report named every deficiency. The crest had been lowered from 72 feet to roughly 69, just to build a carriage road. The 5 discharge pipes were gone, sold for scrap by a prior owner, never replaced. Wire mesh screens had been bolted across the spillway. In a storm, debris would clog them solid. The fill in the center had never been properly compacted. Fulton's inspection report concluded the dam needed to be rebuilt. A new discharge pipe. A reinforced upstream face. Morrell sent the findings to club management. Benjamin Ruff, club co-founder, wrote back on December 2nd, 1880. "You and your people are in no danger from our enterprise," he wrote. No repair was ordered, no screen was cleared. On May 28, 1889, a storm formed over Nebraska and tracked northeast toward the Alleghenies. 3 days later, the storm reached the mountains. By dawn on May 31st, the lake was pressing toward the lowered crest. It was rising faster than the clogged screens could drain. John G. Park Jr. was 23 years old. He was the club's only trained engineer, alone at the crest, watching the lake press higher. Park organized crews to clear the screens by hand, pulling floating debris free while the lake climbed. The lake kept rising. Around 11 in the morning, Park rode on horseback to the village of South Fork. He arranged at least 3 telegraph warnings sent down the valley. The dam was failing. Every warning reached Johnstown. Not one official ordered an evacuation. Johnstown flooded regularly. The Johnstown Tribune reported at noon on May 31st, Johnstown is again underwater. The dam wave was still 4 hours away. Most residents moved furniture upstairs and waited. At 2:50 in the afternoon, overtopping water cut backward through the dam's improperly packed center. Engineers would call it head-cut erosion. The embankment opened. At peak, water discharged between 250,000 and 350,000 cubic feet per second. It ranks among the largest flood flows ever recorded on American soil. The wall of water stood 35 to 40 feet high, taller than a 3-story house. It moved at roughly 40 miles an hour, faster than a galloping horse. It covered those 14 miles in 77 minutes, arriving at approximately 4 in the afternoon. Buildings, locomotives and trees swept through the city and piled against the Pennsylvania Railroad stone bridge. The debris reached 30 acres wide and rose 70 feet high. Around 10 that night, overturned kerosene tank cars inside the pile caught fire. The fire burned for 3 days straight. An unknown number of survivors, people who had lived through the wave, burned inside the pile. The Johnstown flood killed 2,209 people, the deadliest dam failure in United States history. 2,209. Upstream, the dam was gone. 50 of the wealthiest men in America had owned the fish screens that clogged the spillway. 2,209 people dead, more than the enrollment of a large school. Gone in under an hour. Club records show Carnegie, Mellon, and Knox among the 50 members, the richest men in America. Not one of them gave the order to clear the fish screens from the spillway. No lightning struck, no earthquake moved. The club's modifications together had cut the dam's discharge capacity by more than half. No court would ever make them answer. Workers were still pulling bodies from the mud weeks after the flood. The final toll was 2,209. Some bodies were never found. The wave had destroyed 1,600 homes and 280 businesses across 4 square miles. On June 5th, 5 days after the flood, Clara Barton arrived in Johnstown. She was 67 years old, and she brought 50 American Red Cross volunteers. The Johnstown operation became the Red Cross's first major peacetime disaster deployment on American soil. Barton stayed until November, 5 months directing relief from inside the ruins. The Red Cross's own relief report records more than $200,000 in supplies distributed. The same report put the number of survivors helped at roughly 25,000. Nearly $4 million in total relief funds came in from across the country and from abroad. The club had spent $17,500 on the dam. The flood caused $17 million in property damage alone. Not $1 came from any member of the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club. Johnstown rebuilt. The valley slowly cleared of its debris. But who owed anything to Johnstown was already moving through the courts. The paper trail existed. Morrell had put his concerns in writing. He paid for an independent engineering inspection in 1880. The 1880 Fulton inspection report concluded the dam should be entirely rebuilt, findings the club chose to disregard. Ruff wrote back to Morrell dismissing the findings. Neither that report nor Morrell's letters appeared in any courtroom. 4 civil suits were filed against the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club. The club's lead defense attorney was Philander C. Knox, also a club member. Knox and partner James H. Reed defeated every suit. The courts ruled the catastrophe an act of God. Not $1 in civil damages was ever awarded. No criminal charges were filed against any club member. Henry Clay Frick, who assembled the club's 16 founding members, paid nothing. In January 1890, committee chair Max Becker sealed the engineering investigation report, citing pending lawsuits. The findings were never presented at the profession's own convention. The legal system had classified 2,209 deaths as weather. Pennsylvania had no dam safety law until 1913, 24 years after Johnstown. The South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club dissolved in 1904, its records reportedly destroyed. Daniel Johnson Morrell died in 1885, 4 years before the water came. No court ever heard his name in any proceeding. The club's members died in their beds. Ruff had replied to Morrell, "You and your people are in no danger from our enterprise." In 1964, the National Park Service established a memorial where the lake had been. The dam is a meadow now. These are the disaster tapes. The dead don't get a voice. We try to give them one. If that's worth something to you, subscribe. New tape every 3 days.